They told you life is unpredictable, that things just happen, and you have to adapt. But what if that's the biggest lie you've ever believed? What if every situation, every person, every so-called random event in your life has been quietly following a blueprint you've been carrying inside you all along? This isn't about positive thinking or blind optimism. It's about understanding the mechanical truth Neville Goddard revealed. The outer world mirrors the inner world with such precision that nothing in your reality is accidental. Your beliefs, assumptions, and dominant feelings aren't private. They're broadcast into the world, shaping what you experience every single day. And here's the twist. Trying to change your life without changing your inner state is like trying to fix your reflection by wiping the mirror. The real power isn't in chasing, forcing, or controlling the outer world. It's in becoming the conscious artist of your inner one. Once you do, the reflection has no choice but to follow. If you've ever felt stuck, unseen, or at the mercy of circumstances, what you're about to discover will shift the way you see everything. Because when you realize you are the maker of the world you see, the game of life stops being survival and starts being creation. Have you ever had that odd feeling that life is just happening to you? Bills arrive out of nowhere, people's moods seem to dictate your day, and opportunities feel like lucky accidents. The overlooked truth is that what you see out there is a perfect echo of what's going on in here. You're not just a passive witness to the world, you're the maker of the world you experience. Every glance, every thought, every emotional undercurrent is quietly shaping the stage you walk on. Neville Goddard called it the law of assumption, but most people walk around thinking reality is fixed, like a movie already filmed. The problem? They never realize they're the screenwriter, director, and main actor all at once. Consciousness creates reality, but if your awareness is locked on problems, you'll only meet more of them. And it's sneaky because life doesn't announce, "Hey, this scene came from your inner state." It just shows up, and you think it's random. Picture this. You walk into a room already convinced people won't like you. Suddenly, every glance feels cold, every whisper suspicious. Is it their energy, or the reality from within you projecting outward? Feeling is the secret here, and it's not about forcing fake positivity. It's about recognizing the silent influence your state holds. The world is listening, whether you speak out loud or not. Once you grasp this, the game changes. You start to see that every recurring situation, whether sweet or sour, is a breadcrumb back to your own assumptions. And the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start owning the role of conscious creation Neville spoke of, you realize nothing out there is fixed. Which leads us naturally to the question, if consciousness is the only reality, what does that mean for everything you've ever believed? Neville Goddard didn't just teach positive thinking, he went deeper. He said your consciousness is the only reality. That means nothing exists for you outside of what you are aware of being. If you hold the assumption, "I am unlucky," you'll trip over proof of it daily. If you live in the end of "I am loved," life will bend over backward to show you exactly that. Imagination creates reality, and you're using it whether you realize it or not. Think of consciousness like a silent architect. You don't see the blueprint, but the building is going up all the same. Your awareness and assumptions are the lines on that plan, and the outer world is just the construction site bringing it to life. This is why Neville's conscious creation isn't about trying to change the world. It's about shifting the state that the world is faithfully reflecting. A lot of people hear this and think, so you're saying everything around me is my fault? Not fault, responsibility. There's a difference. When you understand that the maker of the world you experience is you stop chasing external changes and start going to the source. It's like fixing a broken mirror by changing your expression instead of smashing the glass. The beauty of this truth is its simplicity. You don't have to wait for luck, fate, or someone else's approval. You can change your state, change your world today. And when you see it in action, even in small ways, you'll never be able to unsee it. But here's the catch. Most people don't realize the world they see is entirely tied to their state, and that misunderstanding keeps them stuck in one of the biggest myths of all. One of the most persistent illusions is the belief that the world out there exists, separate from you. People think reality is an objective, solid thing that just happens, and we're here to deal with it. But if you really look closely, you'll see that what you call the world is stitched together from your perceptions, beliefs, and dominant feelings. Without them, the so-called independent world can't even show up in the way you think it does. Imagine wearing tinted glasses without realizing it. If the lenses are blue, everything looks cold. If they're rose-colored, the whole world feels warm. The glasses are your state, your assumptions, your beliefs, your moods. Consciousness creates reality, but the moment you forget that, you hand over your creative power to what seems to be outside. That's why Neville Goddard insisted you stop reacting and start creating. The myth of an independent world is comforting at first, because it lets you blame life for your circumstances. It's just the economy, or people are like that, or bad things always happen to me. But that's living at the mercy of a reflection. Once you realize the reflection is yours, you can't unknow it. You stop waiting for the weather to change and start adjusting the climate within. Here's where it gets interesting. The moment you break this myth, the outer world starts to feel like clay in your hands. You notice that the same facts can change simply because your inner stance changes. It's no longer about fighting with life, it's about shaping it from within. And once you see your state as the blueprint, you'll understand why reality has no choice but to follow it. Think of your inner state as a master template. Every thought, every belief, every emotional tone you carry forms the architecture for what will show up in your world. Neville Goddard often said, "Feeling is the secret, not because emotions magically fix things, but because they signal the state you're occupying." And that state is the silent command the outer world obeys without question. If your blueprint says, "I am always struggling," life will dutifully deliver situations that match. If it says, "I am secure and abundant," you'll start noticing opportunities, people, and ideas that line up with that. It's not luck, it's the law of assumption in action. Your state is the invisible magnet, pulling everything into place. You might think you're chasing success, but in truth, success is simply responding to the signal you're broadcasting. Here's the twist. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. Wanting more money while living in the state of "I'm broke" is like ordering a new building, but handing the contractor the old blueprints. You can shout new instructions all you want, but the structure will still match the plan in hand. Conscious creation, Neville taught, is all about replacing that inner plan before expecting the outer to change. Once you start treating your state as the blueprint, your whole approach shifts. You stop obsessing over external conditions and start refining the design at the source. It's less about fixing problems and more about embodying the version of you who never had them in the first place. And when you do, the evidence is impossible to miss, because your life will start mirroring those inner shifts in ways you can't ignore. Which brings us to the fun part, spotting that evidence in your world right now. If you want proof that consciousness creates reality, you don't have to look far. Just scan your life for patterns. The friends you attract, the work you get offered, the way strangers treat you. They're all quiet reflections of the states you've been living in. It's like your outer world has been taking notes on your inner conversations and is now handing you the results in 3D. Ever notice how some people always get into the same kind of relationship, or how someone seems to have permanent bad luck with money? These aren't cosmic punishments. They're recurring states replaying themselves until the person chooses a new one. Reality from within is patient. It will repeat the scene as many times as it takes until you change the script. When Neville Goddard spoke of living in the end, he meant embodying the result as if it were already true, so the evidence has no choice but to match. But here's the key. The evidence you see today is not from the state you're in right this second. It's the harvest of what you've been planting in consciousness. That's why the changes sometimes feel delayed. The exciting part. Once you understand this, every piece of evidence becomes feedback. It's no longer about blaming or feeling stuck. It's about reading the signs and adjusting the inner blueprint. And the moment you become aware of these patterns, you'll also notice something else. Most people are creating unconsciously, recycling yesterday's state into tomorrow. Here's the thing, you're always creating, but most of the time you're doing it on autopilot. The majority of people wake up, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and relive the same inner dialogue they had yesterday. Without realizing it, they're recycling old states, which means their outer world can only replay old scenes. That's why it feels like life is just the way it is. Neville Goddard explained that imagination creates reality, but if you're unaware of what you're imagining, your past will keep sneaking into your future. It's like running an old playlist you didn't choose, but still dancing to its rhythm. You might want a new melody, but the track playing in your mind has the final say until you consciously change it. A good example is the person who keeps saying, "I'm trying to get out of debt," yet lives daily in the emotional state of, "I am in debt." Even without meaning to, They're assuming the role of the one who owes, not the one who's free. And so the law of assumption faithfully delivers circumstances to match. Conscious creation, Neville taught, isn't about more effort. It's about waking up to what you're already creating. Once you see how much of your life has been built from unconscious repetition, it's both sobering and empowering. Sobering because you realize how much you've been sleepwalking. Empowering because it means you can rewrite the script starting now. And that's where the real shift happens, when you deliberately become the maker of the world you see, not just its passenger, which is exactly what the next technique is about. If you want a new world, you don't start by wrestling with the old one. You start by becoming the version of you who naturally lives in it. Neville Goddard taught a simple yet profound method. Define the state of the person who already has what you want. Imagine a short, vivid scene from within that life and feel it until it's as natural as breathing. Feeling is the secret because it's what seals the state in consciousness. Think of it like trying on clothes in a store. You don't just stare at the outfit. You put it on, feel the fabric, move around in it. You ask, does this feel like me? The same goes for states. You wear them inwardly until they fit so well, the outer world adjusts to match. Conscious creation isn't a one-time visualization. It's living in the end, until the end feels like home. A practical example. If you're shifting to the state of financial freedom, imagine a moment that proves it's done. Maybe you're casually booking a trip without checking prices. Maybe you're paying a bill and smiling instead of stressing. The scene doesn't have to be grand. It just has to feel real enough that your body says, yes, this is me now. That's when the law of assumption starts arranging the outer pieces. The key is persistence, not force. You're not trying to make reality change. You're embodying the self for whom it's already changed. And the beautiful part is, once the state truly shifts, you'll start noticing subtle but unmistakable signs that the outer world is catching up, which leads us straight into what those indicators look like. One of the first signs your state has shifted is how you feel about situations that used to trigger you. Something that once caused stress now barely registers, not because the world changed overnight, but because you did. Neville Goddard often said the outer world is a mirror, and when you soften within, life softens too. You might not notice it at first, but others will. Another indicator is the arrival of small unexpected opportunities. A casual conversation leads to a connection you needed. A bill is lower than you expected. A door opens where you assumed there was only a wall. These are the early ripples of a bigger wave, proof that reality from within is shifting its tone. It's the universe whispering, keep going, you're on the right track. Relationships also respond. People treat you differently, sometimes without realizing it. Strangers are warmer, friends are more supportive, and conflicts dissolve faster. It's not magic, it's the law of assumption working as intended. You're broadcasting a new blueprint, and the outer world is aligning to match it. And then there are synchronicities, those coincidences that seem too perfect to be random. The book you needed falls into your lap. A song lyric mirrors exactly what you've been imagining. These are not accidents, they're reflections. But here's the tricky part. Sometimes, while these signs appear, the old reality still lingers. And that's where persistence comes in. This is where many people stumble. They shift their inner state, feel the initial excitement, and then get discouraged when old circumstances still show up. Neville Goddard called this nothing more than momentum. The old world is just the echo of your previous state. It doesn't mean your new blueprint isn't working. It's like turning a massive ship. It takes a moment for the course to visibly change. The temptation is to react to what you see and slip back into the old state. But if you do, you're reinforcing the very reality you wanted to leave behind. Persistence is not about forcing yourself to believe. It's about choosing again and again to live in the end. The outer world will catch up, but it follows the lead of your inner stance, not your impatience. A helpful analogy: imagine planting a seed. You wouldn't dig it up every morning to check if it's growing. You'd water it, protect it, and trust the process. Conscious creation, Neville taught, works the same way. You nurture the new state through feeling and imagination, even if nothing seems to be happening. The magic is that the more you stay in the new state, the less the old reality bothers you. It starts to feel irrelevant, like a movie you've already seen. And once you stop reacting to it, you free up all your energy to keep building the world you actually want, which leads naturally to the final and most empowering truth: fully owning your creative role. Here's the truth that changes everything. You are not merely a participant in this world, you are its maker. Every interaction, every opportunity, every so-called coincidence is drawn from the state you occupy. Neville Goddard's teaching isn't about luck or chance. It's about recognizing that consciousness creates reality, and you are holding the brush that paints it. When you own this role, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What within me produced this?" That's not self-blame, it's self-liberation. Because if the world is responding to you, you have the power to make it respond differently. Change your state, change your world. It's that simple and that profound. This doesn't mean you'll never face challenges. It means you'll face them knowing you can shift the state from which you respond, and in doing so, shift the entire outcome. Living in the end becomes less of a practice and more of a way of being. You start to trust your imagination as much as you once trusted facts. And the beautiful paradox, the moment you truly accept you're the maker of the world you see, the world stops feeling heavy. It becomes clay in your hands, flexible, responsive, and ready to reflect whatever you choose to embody. From here, the only question left is, if your reality from within is shaping everything, what will you create next? So now you know, you've never been at the mercy of life out there. Every scene, every relationship, every opportunity has been shaped by the reality from within you. Neville Goddard's law of assumption isn't just theory, it's the operating system of your world. And the moment you take the role of conscious creator seriously, the old limits lose their grip. Ask yourself, what state have I been living in without realizing it? If my outer world is only a reflection, what would happen if I dared to embody the version of me who already has what I desire? These aren't just nice questions. They're the doorway to your next reality. Remember, you don't have to wait for permission, proof, or perfect timing. You can change your state today and the world will follow. Feeling is the secret and your imagination is the tool. Use it deliberately and watch as the evidence begins to appear in ways you can't ignore. If this opened your eyes, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. Every week we go deeper into the art of conscious creation so you can stop living by accident and start living on purpose. The world you see is yours to make. Let's create it together.